Hi, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. My presentation will not be in dark mode. It will be completely light mode. Today, I'm going to talk about what's it like to work with data science projects. So it's called expectations versus reality. And to get started, I like to start with the expectation set by Harvard Business Review, so it's pretty renowned publication. It's the sexiest job in the 21st century. And this was published like right at the start of the 21st century. So we have really high expectations for what this job will be all about. Um, a little bit about myself. I'm a software engineer. I've had different job titles in the past. Varying from software engineer to front end to data engineer. I did study computer science myself, but in addition to that, I followed some data science courses and then realized some of this knowledge was already covered in my original studies. I also keep forgetting most of it, so I'm not definitely not an expert in the specific algorithms or math. And I've also worked on several projects that involved some form of data science. In hindsight also, because when I worked on them, the term data science was not given to that particular project, and then later on they decided to rename departments, and then turns out it was actually a data science project. All right, so what is data science? It's definitely a term that you're hearing a lot about, and if you ask different people, you always get different answers. I'll start with the Wikipedia definition. Wikipedia says data science is an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extract knowledge and insight from data and apply knowledge and actionable insights from data across a broad range of application domains. So it's pretty broad definition. How did this term came where it's now? It's actually traces back to the 1960s, where a professor started to describe a field called data analysis, which kind of resembles what's now modern data science. In 2001, there's a professor, William Cleveland, who wrote a paper that argued that we should apply statistics in a technical domain, and because that will significantly change the field, he decided to coin a new term for that, which was data science. But the real trigger for mainstream adoption of data science came from two data science, or well, at the time, two leads of data analytics at LinkedIn and Facebook. So it originated in Silicon Valley. They basically started to hand out these job titles to their employees, and that was the trigger for the data science boom as we know it today. But what is data science really? It's basically comes from statistics, which is then at some point packaged in a nice frame and called machine learning. And to make it more attractive or understandable or sexy for other people to understand, they started to wrap that again in a nice frame and call it AI. And all these terms are basically interchangeably used. Technically they don't mean the same, but they're used as the um, same topic. Um, Also, I recently read that about 40% of the European AI startups don't actually use AI, so it's pretty fake. It's basically just an umbrella term for using data in some way or another to benefit your organization. Um, so yeah, what does a data scientist actually do? Um, it's a very good question, which hopefully we'll get some answer to in this presentation. It differs from company to company. Um, Companies also have been renaming existing job titles to data scientist. To give a few examples, I've worked in a financial company where they had quants. If you look at their job openings today, they're called data scientists. I also joined KLM recently in a department called Operation Decision Support. And now they have a big reorganization where they renamed everyone who's an operations research consultant to data scientist. And you also see that at the entry level of the market, where people who graduated in a STEM topic, in Dutch that's like the beta studies, like something in science or math or any engineering discipline, they are all applying on data science jobs. And even people who use Excel, they think of themselves maybe as also a data scientist. So it's pretty hard to know what exactly a data scientist does. Um, so yeah, then I also started to get more curious. That's going back a few years, even before I joined SciTech. I got introduced by coworkers who did this course. Maybe some of you took it. It's called Machine Learning by Andrew Ng, if I pronounce that correctly. It was one of the first courses on Coursera. He's also the co-founder of Coursera. And basically, it was a pretty intensive online course using the Octave programming language to introduce the algorithms that form the field of machine learning, and in particular, linear regression, recommender systems, and neural networks. And that was my first introduction in modern AI. So I had some courses on university, but they covered different topics which are not popular at all at the moment. When I took the course, it was very heavily math-based. And yeah, so that was my first impression and also expectation of what people do in their job. So then I decided to take a more intensive course, which used actually Python. It was like 3 or 4 months long, and it used the technologies and techniques that people actually use on the job now. And as you can see, the time spent in different activities was changing quite a lot. In the beginning, it was mostly about models, but later on, when you get more advanced data sets and you know more about the models themselves, you have to clean your data quite a lot to make sure that that the models can optimally use the data. Then I went on and went to the final of the course. We had to do a capstone project. So come up with your own idea, gather your own data, which I discovered was actually a lot of the work, like almost as much as the data cleaning. And once I had the data, I had to clean it, and then a very small portion of that time was actually spent on building these models themselves. So after that, I actually joined an AI company, a company that use state-of-the-art deep learning technologies like GPT-2, if you heard about it. It's a natural language model for text generation. And then I started to experience the reality. And that was a bit different than what you learn in the course. I spent quite a lot of my time installing software and discovering that it doesn't work because some things are outdated or incompatible. You spend a lot of time on Stack Overflow. Of course, when you do a course, you have all the data in a nice CSV file, but in reality, you have to set up a whole machine learning platform, sometimes based on Kubernetes, or sometimes you use the cloud. You have to write all kinds of glue scripts to move your data from one place to another and do it consistently so you can automate collecting data and moving it to training and then towards a production system. Companies also have all kinds of data. They have data from various sources, various products. Sometimes it's organized, but most of the times it's not. It's really inconsistent. Sometimes it misses data. Sometimes it's not up to date, or it arrives half in one database and the other half doesn't arrive until next week. So you have to deal a lot with incomplete data. And what also surprised me was the amount of time that was actually necessary to spend on edge cases. And these edge cases, they sometimes are really funny, like chatbots suggesting like to swear at the customer, or chatbots who don't understand what the customer is saying and cutting off the chat and thinking they're done. So a lot of time you're spending time on checking out what was the case, how it came that the chatbot acted that way, and it's very time consuming. Also, one of the most valuable data you can have is personal data. You can do a lot with it, especially to generate revenue. If you work with personal data, there's a whole lot of security and privacy issues you have to deal with. So you also spend quite a lot of time anonymizing data or working around restrictions. For example, you don't have access to production data, but you have to debug an issue without checking the customer's data because that's protected by the GDPR. So this is about a representation what you can expect when you start the job as data scientist, which activities you will be doing on your day-to-day job. Of course, the difference is how big your company is. If you have a large company, you probably have the opportunity to specialize in one of these topics. But if you are joining a startup as data scientist, you'll probably have to do all of these things. All right, thanks for joining my talk. And if you have any questions, please contact me on LinkedIn or send me an email or Slack me.